Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to have a look at another beer from a brewery that you've seen me review a good number of things from now. So for this review we are going to head up towards Gothenburg once again, Göteborg as you would say in Swedish, the craft beer capital of Sweden, and we're having a taste of another new beer from Stigbergets Bryggeri. So this one is the double-headed, double dry hopped West Coast IPA coming in at 6% ABV. This beer of course was released on the 4th of October 2019. So really looking forward to trying this one. A lot of people were saying that this is supposed to be very, very good, so I'm guessing that it's probably done the rounds in some of the beer bars up in Gothenburg already. So hopefully it's another good beer, and hopefully you guys enjoy my take on it as well. I'm curious to see how it turns out. So as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Stigbergets Bryggeri before. No doubt I'll add some more at some point in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Stigbergets Bryggeri then, on to my brewery notes. So Stigbergets Bryggeri, as I've told you before, are based in Gothenburg, and they were founded by Nils Hultkrantz and Richard Simonsson, and these guys own two bars that share the one kitchen. This is Bar Chino and the Hagabjörns Cafe, which can be found on Linnegatan in the city, and they both opened back in 2007. So originally the idea was to brew a few beers that they could sell in the bars, but this led to them kegging the beer and selling it on to other pubs, and eventually to bottling their beers, which began back in November of 2014. The original beers that they were producing were mainly English and German styles of beer, but more recently they expanded into the hoppy American styles of beer, and this is where they really made their name. The original head brewer was Ole Anderson, who is one of the co-owners of OO Brewing, and he was since replaced after going back to focus solely on OO Brewing back in 2017. He was replaced for a period of time by Barnaby Struve, who was one of the vice presidents at Three Floyds. But quite recently they've actually set up another brewery at Partihalarna. They brew 5,000 litre batches there, and they've been working on some sour beers as well. They also started selling their beers in these 440ml cans, but you will get some of them in the little kind of thinner 330ml cans as well, and this means that they will be able to export their beers a lot more. And cans really, you know, they do protect the beer from the light a little bit more. But from my understanding of the chemistry, some of the sealants that they use in the cans are not so good actually. They've changed them a little bit, but it's still kind of the same compound of chemical that lines them and things. But in terms of storage and export and things, cans are obviously lighter, they're recyclable, and all of this kind of thing as well. But currently they've got a brew team of Ollie Banks, who used to work for Beavertown in London, a very good brewery in its day, and also Lucas Monroyd, who used to work for All In Brewing too. So definitely a brewery that you want to check out, this one. My favourite beers that I've had from these guys so far: Amazing Haze is a bit of a Swedish classic now. The new and improved GBG Beer Week. Muddle was very good as well, but I don't think that's been out for a little while actually at this point in 2019 when I'm reviewing this one for you. But Muddle was a very, very good beer as well. I missed out on Double Muddle, which I was disappointed at. I wish I could have reviewed that one for you. But yeah, this one is this brewery, of course, I would say they're probably more famous for their IPAs. I've reviewed one or two of their sour beers, and every so often you will find some darker beers from them as well. But pretty much when these guys have a go at style, they tend to do it pretty well actually. So if you get the chance, have a go at some of their beers. They are becoming more and more widely available. But that's all you really need to know about Stigbergets Brewery for the moment. Probably one of the better known Swedish craft breweries these days. But if you want to learn more, check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. And of course you can check out the Rate Beer and Untappd pages if you want to see all the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer then. So as you can see, and as you might recognise, the artwork of this one is of course kind of based on the artwork that you have for the original West Coast IPA that they did. So I don't know if the rainbows are supposed to be like a statement supporting like gay pride or something like that, which obviously would be a good thing, but I'm not sure if that is intended or if it's just because rainbows are pretty. But they've got seagulls on there, and I will tell you, as a Scot who lived in Aberdeen for a long time, I hate seagulls. They are bastards. And the ones that we had in Aberdeen were genetically modified things. They were about this size. They were huge, and they used to try and attack you and take your food. So I've never been a great fan of seagulls, and I'm sure I said that in my first review, my first video that I did of the West Coast IPA. They don't even taste nice, they're just pointless, those birds, I think. But nicely presented artwork on this one. One thing I should say about this beer as well is, because I think I made a little mistake when I reviewed the original West Coast IPA before, and it was one of the Swedish viewers that corrected me on this. When it says West Coast IPA, it means West Coast Swedish IPA, and I was talking about this in another review that I filmed quite recently as well. The West Coast IPA, of course, is the big caramelly, quite bitter, juicy, oily, fruity one that you would get from the West Coast in America. But the Swedish West Coast IPAs tend to be kind of hazy and sort of creamy, if you like. So I'm wondering if this is still the same case when they're saying West Coast IPA, because these beers, in my experience, not many of the IPAs that you'll find from Stigbergets are very caramelly and things. They are mainly the hazy sort of New England type thing, but they don't have the farmhouse kind of qualities that you would expect of like Heady Topper and things. They are a bit more kind of creamy and oaty leaning rather than anything else. So do bear that in mind if you have a West Coast IPA from Sweden. It might be a West Coast Swedish IPA rather than a West Coast American IPA. So yeah, just a little interesting point about that. But nice artwork on this one. It's an IPA coming in at 6.5%, as I said earlier, released on the 4th of October 2019. So without further ado, let's get this guy out and we will get on with the tasting then. And I might take the label off that. I do like the Gay Seagull artwork, it's kind of cool. But yeah, let's get it out and into the glass and see how we get on. So yeah, hazy New England IPA, this one. I have to admit, it would be interesting actually to see Stigbergets have a go at a proper West Coast American style IPA, based along the lines of like Sculpin or something like that from Ballast Point. That'd be really interesting to get a little fly just flying around. It's annoying, but yeah, as you can see, this one definitely is, in terms of its appearance, more of a kind of hazy New England style beer, this, because I think when I did the first one I was confused as to why it was hazy when it was supposed to be a West Coast IPA. And the West Coast IPAs, in fairness, are a little hazy but not oaty and things like that. But I mean, in terms of colour, this beer, it's definitely quite a deep yellow. There's a solid just under a finger of a frothy, I would say that's cream coloured, that head is, or ivory, something like that. It's a little bit off-white. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones heading up towards the bottom of it. But overall, nothing particularly surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance when you consider it is an IPA. If I put my fingers behind the glass, there you can see it's got a nice level of haze to it there, and that's kind of what you should expect from a Gothenburg IPA. There's a lot of really good IPA breweries up there now. Of course, you've got OO Brewing, you've got Spike Brewery, and Dugas can do some very good IPAs as well. And there's a whole host of other breweries like Vega and things like that, and Två Feta Grisar and things like that. There's a lot of good breweries in Gothenburg that are definitely worth checking out. As I say, that's the reason it's the craft beer capital of Sweden. Somewhere that I do need to go and explore a little bit. But in terms of appearance, nothing surprising about this beer. So let's take a look at the aroma and just see how we get on then. Ooh, that smells really nice actually. And I do remember that with the West Coast IPA before, is that it was just a nice kind of sessioning, easy drinking beer. And I don't know if it wasn't quite as adventurous, if you like, as Muddle or Amazing Haze and things like that. But it was still really quite nice, and this beer comes across as if it's going to be quite sessionable, but it does have a nice aroma to it. So malt base is kind of what you would expect. You can pick up a nice sort of white bready, pale malty quality just underpinning this one. There's a little hint of biscuity sweetness in there, but not too much. You can get some of the oaty creaminess out of this beer too, but mainly I think this one leans more towards the white bready kind of sort of thing. It's not really wheaty, I don't think. It doesn't quite have the kind of pungency of the wheat. I think it leans a little bit more towards the kind of pale malty and bready side of things, because I always find that wheat, it's got a little bit of an almost pungent astringency kind of thing to it, which is definitely worth noting if you try some of these beers. But this one, good little oaty presence to it as well. It does smell that little bit creamy, and you've also got you've also got a nice bit of you've also got a nice, just, it's almost a little bit like Vitti's Digestives. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit of carapils or something in this beer. So just pay attention to that. But on the hoppy side of things, that's of course where you would expect this beer to shine a little bit, especially when it's double dry hopped. I don't know why they've called it, I don't know if the double-headed thing is just to signify the hops or whatever. I actually thought when I bought this one, I thought it was a double IPA. I thought it would be like 8, and that was why they'd gone for double-headed, double dry hopped for the name. But it's just regular 6.5%. But on the hoppy side of things then, there's a good little bit of floral quality to this one. It's got a nice grassiness as well. It's quite well balanced between the two. The green side of the hops don't lean either way, to be honest. On the fruity side of things though, it leans towards the tropical side of things. I mean, you've got a good bit of mango in there. I think there's a bit of passion fruit as well. I wouldn't be surprised if this beer is kind of straight up Citron Galaxy. I wouldn't be surprised about that, but then again, it could be something, you know, like Idaho 7 that seems to be becoming a bit more popular now. It's mainly, there's a bit of passion fruit in there. You can smell the sort of more pungent passion fruity note just taking a bit of a back seat, but on the front end it starts to lean more towards a mangoey, maybe slightly pineapple-y quality, and that's the fact that there's passion fruit in there and a bit of pineapple, that's what's making me think Galaxy, and the mango is making me think that it might be Citra. And you do get, in fairness, you do get a little bit of a lychee, almost gooseberry kind of thing out of this beer on the front too. The other thing that might be in here could be Simcoe, right enough. And one of the things I found, Simcoe, Amarillo and Citra were always the big three when it came to the high alpha acid hops back in the day. But Simcoe, I always find it smells a little bit more kind of milky in its passion fruity quality than Galaxy does. So it could well be that this has got Simcoe in it, this one, because it does have a little bit, if you sugar this beer up and just catch the aroma in the right way, it almost comes across as being very slightly milkshakey or something like that, almost kind of akin to what you'll get from the IPAs from Ale Farm over in Denmark. It's got a little bit of that kind of quality to it, which is interesting. So pay attention to that part of the aroma. But I mean, in terms of you know, IPA and things, again, there's not so much surprising about this one, but it comes across as a nice, smooth, kind of juicy, almost quite creamy actually, New England IPA. The more you smell of it, the more you're going to think that it's quite a creamy one. But yeah, let's have a taste of this beer then and just see how we get on. This one is the double-headed, double dry hopped West Coast IPA with geese eagles on the front of it. Let's get stuck in and see how we get on. A West Coast Swedish IPA coming in at 6.5%. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål. Yeah, that's pretty nice actually, but it is kind of what I expected it was going to be. It's a nice, easy drinking, kind of sessionable IPA, this one actually, and I do remember the West Coast IPA being like that. Definitely not as adventurous, I think, as some of the other beers that they've done, but just like really solid actually. I think that's what they were going for. Maybe this is, I don't know, I mean, probably this beer, how much did I pay for this? I think I paid about 40 crowns, maybe 45 for this one, whereas you can get the regular one for like 33, I think it is. So I don't know if they will replace the regular one with this, or if this is meant to be like a new recipe kind of find for it or something like that. They're sort of testing the water with this beer to see how it goes down, but it does come across, it's really nice. Definitely not the most adventurous Stigbergets beer I've had, but it comes across really pretty nicely, I have to say. So thumbs up to Stigbergets for this one. It's a nice kind of sessionable IPA, this. Yeah, definitely wouldn't hesitate to drink that again. It feels a little bit, if memory serves me correctly, this one does feel a little bit thicker than the original West Coast IPA. Actually, it took me a little while to review that one, if memory serves me correctly, and I'm sure I had it when it was still in the bottle. I think I had it just when they were starting to replace the bottles with the cans actually, but this one is quite a nice beer. So let's try and break the flavour down then. The middle of your palate, you're going to get that nice smooth bready quality that just blankets the middle of your tongue. You can pick up a little bit of a wheaty quality to this one, but it's not the most pronounced of wheaty notes. You can feel a little bit of the wheat just pushing its way out the further you go into the aftertaste. But really the middle of your palate, there's a lot of creaminess from the oats in this one, and it comes across very, very nicely actually. Yeah, I really like how that goes together. This beer, it definitely grows on you a little bit. When I tasted it, I was like, oh yeah, no, it's nice, solid enough. But the more and more that I have of it, the more it actually does start to grow on me. So it would actually be a bit of a shame if this is only a kind of one-off brew. But then when it comes to IPAs and things like that these days, a lot of these beers are actually. But yeah, this one comes across very, very nicely actually. It really does grow on you the more you drink of it. In the very middle of your palate, there is a little touch of a slightly biscuity sweetness to the beer too, which is nice. That comes out a bit more the further you go into the aftertaste as well. But the nice kind of creamy qualities that are there, they really linger into the aftertaste too, and some of the wheaty notes. So this beer does grow in pungency a little bit the more that you drink of it. But yeah, it's really nice and just solid and very easily drinkable, this beer. I certainly like this one. On the hoppy side of things then, in the back corners of the palate there's a tiny, tiny little bit of earthiness there. You're always going to get that. But I need to turn the sound off, I forgot about that. But as you go kind of further into the aftertaste with this beer, you're going to get more of the kind of floral aromatic notes coming out. If you move further forward on the palate, you get a nice kind of floral, you really get a nice floral dryness to this beer as well, which is great. And then round the very front curve of the palate, it's that little bit lighter and more grassy and things. And I think it really, in the flavour, it leans a little bit more towards the floral side of the beer. But the further that you go into the aftertaste, the grassiness does push its way out a bit more. But this one, the bitterness of the beer does kind of linger a little bit more on the floral side of things. But it's good, I like that. I like the beer to have a bit of bite to it. On the fruity side of things, as I always say, you get that little oily bubble, pardon me, behind the front curve of your palate. And the fruits are really nice actually. They're not the punchiest of fruits, but they're quite subtle, and they mix in with the they really mix in quite well with the way that the oatiness in this beer goes actually. The way that the passion fruit, the Simcoe side of the beer comes out is really nice. Yeah, that's good. So if you go to the back of that oily bubble, you'll get the passion fruity notes. And they kind of linger there. They get a little bit darker the further you go into the flavour, but as you come further forward, it starts to gradually morph into a more kind of mango type note, and then further forward it's almost a little bit pineapple-y, maybe even apricot-y, something like that. And then on the front kind of edge of the tongue, you've got a nice, there is a little bit of a slightly lychee-ish kind of note in there. In terms of maybe it's pineapple. I mean, I actually don't know with this beer. It might not have Citra in it, because I suspected from the aroma, and of course the presence of mangoes really is an indicator of Citra. I wonder if this could actually be single hopped. If it's single hopped, I would be more inclined to say that it's Galaxy rather than Simcoe. But if it's dual hopped, I think it's maybe Simcoe and Citra. As I say, I always like playing guess the hops with these beers, but the thing with the Citra is that you're not really getting the lychee kind of gooseberry notes that you would normally get from Citra. It could be something else completely, right enough. It could be, for example, the Idaho 7 or something like that that's in here. Or even something else that I've not thought of, to be honest. But I mean, overall, it's a really solid enough beer, this one. Is it the most adventurous one that I think they've done? I don't know. I mean, it's not struck me in the same way that, for example, Amazing Haze did, or the GBG Beer Week. Those beers, when you try those, you were like, damn. And it doesn't quite strike me in this way. But then again, the quality of IPAs that we have across the board in Sweden these days is pretty damn good. So it's quite difficult to find one actually where you're like, oof. because you know, Dugas are doing some the really good ones, the Fresh and the Crush and things like that. Stigbergets have always been solid. Spike Brewing are doing some really good stuff. You've got the Fata Morgana from Omnipollo and things as well. I go to Malmo Tap Room and have good IPAs pretty much every week. You know, there's a high standard of IPA here, so to have something that really blows you away these days is quite difficult, but it's a very solid beer, this, in terms of flavour. And if you like your beers to be nice, your New England IPAs to be smooth and drinkable, then this one is going to suit you down to the ground. I say New England IPAs, but it is, you know, this one, that lighter kind of drinkability and the sort of smoothness that it has, that's probably the signature of a West Coast Swedish IPA, actually. So bear that in mind when you try this one. It is, I guess, technically a New England IPA, a hazy IPA. But the breadiness and smoothness you get out of this is probably what encompasses a Swedish West Coast IPA. In terms of the mouthfeel then, I would say I would say that this beer is quite mid-bodied. Carbonation is very smooth. It really does start to get more and more creamy the more that you drink of this beer. I really like how this whole thing kind of goes together. A nice, smooth, kind of creamy quality to this beer. Yeah, I think it's fair to say this is quite a smooth, easy drinking beer. This one, my nose is getting itchy. I don't know what's going on. But in terms of hoppy bitterness with this, I would say, I think you're only talking 25 IBUs with this beer, maybe even 20. I don't think it quite reaches the 30 mark, to be honest, although in fairness you do get that bit of floral aromaticity there, so I think 30 at the most, but I want to lean towards it being closer to 20. We'll go with 25 because it's in the middle, but you've got a nice juicy fruitiness to this one, and of course you've got a nice smooth malt base there. There's a little bit of kind of biscuity sweetness in the middle of the palate, but mainly it's a very smooth, kind of easy drinking beer, this one. But another very, very solid beer from Stigbergets, and I wouldn't hesitate to drink this again, so I'm curious to see if it appears again in Stigbergets over the next couple of months. But really cool to review this one, and I certainly would recommend that you try this if you get the chance. I'm sure the guys in England and other places that I watch reviews from will be getting this at some point soon, so have a go at this. I think you're in for a bit of a treat when it comes to this beer, so let's leave it at that. This one was the double-headed, double-dry hopped West Coast IPA. It's 6.5% from Stigbergets Bryggeri in Gothenburg here in Sweden. A really solid new kind of take on the original West Coast IPA. I'd love to see this brewery try a proper West Coast American IPA along the lines of Torpedo or Sculpin, or you know, something like this. I'd love to see what Stigbergets could pull up there, because I think they'd have something very, very good actually. But for the most part, when it comes to IPAs, these guys are very solid when it comes to the hazy side of things. So yeah, make sure you check them out. But thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on the beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Stigbergets as well, stuttering in this review, and as always, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff, and I'll catch you guys very soon with another review. The double-headed, double-dry hopped West Coast IPA from Stigbergets Bryggeri in Gothenburg here in Sweden. A really nice, easy drinking beer, this one, with that kind of does everything you'd expect. A nice, solid take on this style. So until the next time, Slanja just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slanja, skål, cheers.